Okay, this is a Special Hobbies 1/32 scale MiG-3.
YAK-3.
YAK-3, sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
YAK-3. And it was a very interesting project. I chose this as my one of 3 projects that I'm doing for this 1944 contest. I'm going to do a subject consisting of land, sea, and air, and of course this is the air one. This is done in the markings of a French volunteer squadron or group that flew with the Russians in 1944. The unit was known as the Normandie Nemienne, and they basically were guys that were left over from the Battle of France that, I don't know how, because they don't explain it, they wound up in Russia rather than in fighting with the British. And the majority of these pilots stayed in Russia, actually teaching Russian pilots how to fly their own airplanes. And then two of the pilots got together and decided to start a unit, a French group, but they were all communists. They were all highly supported communists, because after the war, the survivors of this group went back to France, and a lot of them wound up in jail because they tried to depose de Gaulle, and they wanted to put a communist government in France. But getting back to World War II, the YAK-3 was a very interesting design. I didn't know anything about it until I actually bought this kit. I always thought that the YAK-9 was the principal fighter that the Russians had in World War II. And if you look very closely, this is basically a YAK-9 with a better engine and a 2-stage, 2-speed supercharger that they copied from a Merlin-powered Spitfire that had a 2-speed supercharger on it. And this aircraft was their first 400-mile-an-hour plus airplane. They had a lot of problems with it in the beginning because, as you know, most of the air battles were fought at low level, mostly between 12 and 15,000 feet. And the YAK-3s were designed to fight at over 20, 25,000 feet, so they had to do some modifications to the superchargers so that they kicked in and worked at much lower altitudes and still gave the performance that was required out of the aircraft. The unit, I think, wound up killing or destroying 278 enemy airplanes before the war was over, 14 aces, and this particular one, the markings in this airplane, is the second highest scoring French pilot of World War II, second only to Pierre Clostermann, and he scored all of his 26 victories in 3 months of fighting.
Wow.
He was really that good. Also, all of his targets that he shot down were single-engine, single-seat fighters, Focke 190s and Messerschmitt 109s, which by the time this unit was formed, we're talking about later 109G models, G10s, G14s, and Focke 190 A8s, and maybe even some of the D models that went to the Russian front. The kit itself, very nice kit, considering it's a Special Hobbies kit. The only real fit issues that they had was the empennage. As per usual, when you put the empennage into the airplane, it's like this. So unfortunately, I had to cut away the tab, redo the hole on this side, and get it to line up evenly. I think every Special Hobbies kit or Azure kit that I've built had that same problem. It's a multimedia kit. It comes with photo etch. It comes with resin parts. The detail, I can go ahead and turn it over. The detail in that landing gear bay is just absolutely phenomenal. And it was a real pleasure to do that. That's all. That's the landing gear. Everything in the landing gear bay is all resin parts. And it really is really nice, and it went together.
They came with the kit?
They came with the kit, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And in this case, usually sometimes you get resin parts. Once you build it, you can't put the fuselage halves together. This one actually went together beautifully.
So the wheels, are they weight-on wheels?
Yep.
Okay. Oh yeah, I see the flat spots now. Okay.
They weight on wheels, and they're resin. The decals are cartographed, which are fabulous. They went on really nice, and as long as you use a Walther's decal setting solution, you can slide them all over the place and get them where you want them and dry them where you want.
It's got a free French.
Yep. Yep. They put the free French. He had the free French emblem on that airplane. There's his kill markings there.
So we mounted on the tail, on the fin, the free French marking. Some of them had it, some of them, not all of them, but some of them.
Since this unit really didn't last very long, they were only around for about 8 or 9 months, I decided not to weather the hell out of the airplane. Also because I really love the 3 shades used in this camouflage, that I really didn't want to, you know, dirty them up and do like that. So I did the minimal of wearing on it. And as I talked about earlier in my technique here, see how I raised the surface of the fabric-covered ailerons by just painting, letting the paint only dry for a few hours, and then going back and
Brushing it off with your
brushing it
sponge.
off and just sanding it off. Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
So
so
did you
the
do
blue on
the-
top is different than the
Yes.
on
Oh,
the
yeah.
side.
It's different. Yeah.
Okay.
There's 3 different colors. I'm sorry, you said?
Did you do the entire aircraft using your sponge paint?
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, for as long as I've been a member of this club, which is over 20 years, I use my sponge painting technique on everything I brought in. Everything. And that includes, I mean, I'm talking about all my models that I brought in have all been done using that technique. There's another problem with Azure and/or Special Hobby kits. They don't give you much of a propeller joint on there. Okay. The spinner tricolors were hand painted on. They don't give you a decal for that. Although I do understand that there are, for other free French aircraft that were used, like the Mustangs and others, piston engine airplanes that had spinners, you can get a decal for those. And I understand they're pretty difficult to apply, but with this kit, it didn't come with it. You had to actually paint it. Okay. And unless anybody has any questions, that's all I got. Okay.